and welcome to another edition of our Card of the Week. Today we're going to be talking about a common card that is one of my favourites to play. It's the Grey Merchant of Asphodel. Also, if you prefer reading rather than listening on YouTube, you can also catch this on our blog over at www.glitchingamelody.com/blog, along with a lot of other cool stuff. Anyway, let's talk about the Grey Merchant of Asphodel. He's a Magic the Gathering card, first released in September of 2013 in the Theros set. His mana cost is 3 colourless and 2 black, and he's a creature with the type Zombie. His power is 2, toughness is 4, and his rarity is a common. The card text says this: when the Grey Merchant of Asphodel enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black. You gain life equal to the life lost in this way. Each black in the mana cost of permanents you control count towards your devotion to black. So, the Grey Merchant of Asphodel may not be the bulkiest card, but given his ability, he can be extremely brutal in mono-black decks with a little strategic play. He's known affectionately as Gary in the community, and there's a lot of Gary to go around. There are a few reasons that this is such a mighty card and has won me more games than any Planewalker to date. He's also a powerful player in the online Magic the Gathering games, MTG Arena, and Magic Online MTGO. People love to play him. There's a reason that this card was reprinted in Theros Beyond Death, Jumpstart the List, Commander Collection Black, and the Starter Commander deck Grave Danger. Before we talk about this card in play, we're going to talk a little about its name and the meaning of that. The Grey Merchant of Asphodel, that is, rather than Gary. The Grey Merchant, as the card suggests, is a trader. This might seem a little odd for a zombie type, since the undead aren't usually known for their communication skills, but we think this is because the Grey Merchant of Asphodel trades in something less traditional. He provides services in exchange for devotion. This brings us to the next part of the question. What does he trade? To understand that, we need to look at the rest of his title, the part that tells us where he's from. Although many say Grey Merchant, the full card name is the Grey Merchant of Asphodel. Asphodel is the location in the underworld in Greek mythology where memories fade away. It is from a deceptively pretty sounding area called the Asphodel Meadows. It was sort of like purgatory, because it was a resting place for ordinary neutral souls. There's also the asphodel plant, which is a pale one that often grows in graveyards, and it's linked with mourning the dead. It was believed to grow throughout the Asphodel Meadows, giving the area a ghostly grey sheen. Unlike the underworld's area of the damned, Tartarus, or the Space of Heroes, Elysium, the Asphodel space sort of drifted and did nothing remarkable either way. In a lot of ways it represented a mundane balance, which is reflected in the fact that whatever the Grey Merchant takes in life points, he also gives exactly to the player commanding him. He's a neutral and unbenefiting character of the life and death transaction. His usage in the card game. In our opinion, the Grey Merchant of Asphodel should be considered a tech card rather than a simple monster. Others agree, depending on the format and the meta of the time. These cards are often responsible for the twists and turns in the game. With the Grey Merchant of Asphodel, this is definitely the case, if you play your cards right. Anyway, so much so that this is the only black card I've ever managed to claim a victory against our friend Mark with, because his decks are the definition of mean. I comboed it with Erebos, God of the Dead, and Whip of Erebos if you were curious. Now let's talk about how the Grey Merchant techs in. In Pauper or Commander, the Grey Merchant card is a great one to keep in hand while building up the black devotion on the field. People you play with regularly will probably learn to keep their guard up for it after a while, but early deck building it can deliver a surprise finisher. If you can build up enough of a black devotion pool, it can swing the game dramatically, because it comes into play with the power of all of these willing devotees. Essentially, if you've got a decent horde, you can often get an instant win. This is even more OP against multiple opponents because of the way the card text is worded. It notes all of your opponents, so everyone gets hit. On top of that, it specifies you gain life equal to the life lost, meaning you're draining everybody. If you bring the Grey Merchant in for 3 points on each player, it'll make a big difference. In a 4-player match where you hit for free, you'll get 9 yourself, provided there aren't any cards to mitigate this. Its life-raising ability is definitely useful in a pinch, and it's always nice to have a way to up that outside of the white mana decks. Thanks to this life gain, the Grey Merchant is good against fast, aggressive decks that aim to keep the pressure on your life. Combo Enabler is another tech asset to this card. In Blink, Reanimation or Aristocrat decks, it can serve as a win condition or be what is known in MTG as a powerful value engine. This means that it can consistently do a good job at giving card advantages, life increases, and holding a board presence. After a while, with the correct setup, the Grey Merchant of Asphodel can also apply heavy pressure. The Grey Merchant has excellent devotion payoff, which is why it's been a core synergy piece for so long, as well as a defensive tech against decks that struggle with life gain or wide swings. All of that might sound scary, but it becomes absolutely terrifying when we take its rarity into account. As a common card, it is easy to pull and affordable to buy. However, that's not the worst of it. The Grey Merchant of Asphodel isn't banned in any format. This means it can even be put into a pauper deck up to 4 times. And yes, the Grey Merchant counts its own devotion too. The reason it can include its own black devotion in its calculation is because it is considered on the field when its ETB ability triggers. Therefore, even if your field is completely empty when it's summoned, it hits for 2. And this isn't limited to one Gary either. If there is more than one on the field, they count each other and themselves. That's scary. And it gets worse. Grey Merchant of Asphodel can be buffed very easily. Here's a few ways to do that. Devotion flooding. Summoning cheap cards with high devotion to the field to increase the count for the Grey Merchant of Asphodel's devotion. Some ideas include Phyrexian Rage for 4, or Chittering Rats and Dalfi Slayer for 2 black devotion each. Playing enchantments, artifacts, and permanents. Any of these will count towards black devotion if they require a swamp tap and stay on the field while the Grey Merchant activates. Some ideas to play include the Font of Return or Deadweight, each which give 1 extra devotion. Copying Grey Merchant of Asphodel is also another way to do it. Making more copies with cards like Mirror Match, Minion Reflector, and Helm of the Host boosts devotion exponentially. Helm of the Host is strong in EDH, where you are limited to a single Grey Merchant within your start deck, but not on the field. Boosting Grey Merchant's ETB is the final way to do it, with cards like Ferroharmonicon. The Grey Merchant of Asphodel gets his ETB doubled. Alright, thanks for listening, and let us know if there's a card you'd like to be featured next time. Until then, please follow us on our social media for more cool card and gaming content stuff. The links are at the bottom of our website and in the description. Until next time, keep your devotion high and keep gaming.